Capricorn Sun and Rising. Welcome to a video looking at the transits of Saturn going into Pisces and Pluto going into Aquarius, both occurring in March of 2023. That's going to be a big month for all of us because there's going to be a major shift. Both of these planets are outer planets. Saturn has a transit of about 2.5 years through one sign, and Pluto has I think at least 15 years, and in the case of the transit of Pluto in Aquarius, it's going to be 20 years. So it's a generational planet for sure, and it's going to leave your sign after over 15 years. It is going to go back into Capricorn, though, and it's going to end the year in Capricorn. So you're not getting done with Pluto completely. That will occur in 2024. But that's going to come before we know it, and I want to give you a taste of Pluto in Aquarius. Even it's only going to go up to zero. I keep saying 0 degrees something minutes because I don't know the exact minutes. I keep forgetting to look that up, but that's neither here nor there. It's 0 degrees, and then it'll go back into Capricorn. Okay, but let's start with Saturn because I want to talk about where it has been and how it has been affecting you. Given the fact that I'm recording this in January of 2023 and Saturn is still in Aquarius as I record this, plus for some of you, based on your chart, you may still have Saturn in the second house even when it goes into Pisces because of the nature of your particular second house. It's going to vary from Capricorn to Capricorn. And so when I do these readings, I just give like a general overview. And, you're all going to have it, so it's not like you're going to miss it or something. You're going to have it eventually. So for the last few years, you have had Saturn in Aquarius, and that is your second house of earned income. That is Taurus's domain in the universal chart, and it represents finances and also self-worth. That tends to get kicked to the curb or like overlooked, but it is also your self-worth in addition to your net worth. And so when Saturn is transiting a person's second house, they might find that their finances feel a little bit tight. And this is because Saturn can exert a restrictive influence over the affairs of a particular house. So in the second house, money may seem like it's not flowing as easily as it once did. And this could be specifically in order to motivate you to really organize your finances. I'm not saying that you're not going to be making money and that you're going to have problems with it. But if you've been having a regular flow with your money and you haven't been conscious or mindful of it, there might be some situation that arises that makes you say, you know what, I have to get my house in order, my financial house in order. I will say that because you are in the sign of Capricorn, that I don't feel that this is going to manifest for you in that way, because I feel that a lot of Capricorns, probably the vast majority of you, are already fiscally conservative. So you're not the kind of person to just blow money, uh, spend money like it's water type of person. And so because of this, I feel like, and because Saturn is your ruler, I feel like you might really welcome this influence because it's right up your alley. You're the kind of person that believes in structure, believes in discipline. And if it's coming from an outer force, you may welcome it rather than rebel against it. And you may feel like it's providing you with this helping hand, even. And I think one of the best ways of approaching this influence is to um, develop some kind of structure that is coming from a financial background where you can make sure to, um, get an infrastructure in place so that in the future you don't have to keep it going at that level. So, you might be putting a lot of hard work on the front end and then you are able to sustain it with minimal effort later on. Now, this is something that has been happening over the course of 3 years, so you may already have something like this going on. This can look like multiple income streams that don't require a lot of hands on maintenance over time. But anyway, I just want to give you an overview of what the influence has been the past few years. Now we have Saturn moving into Pisces, and this is going to be your third house. And this is going to be a friendly angle called a sextile. And, 2 signs over. And the third house is the house of the mind. And this is the house of, the training, that the trainings you get, the certifications, the teachings that you do if you are in that field. And so Saturn, again, we look at that discipline. How does that affect the mind? Well, one thing that jumps out at me is meditation, because that's kind of like taming the mind, disciplining the mind. And you may find this appealing at this particular juncture of your life for some reason. And so you may first go into training to become a good meditator. This might just be something that you decide to do because you want to, and then you have such a great experience with it that you decide to do it as a profession, because Saturn can, since it rules the house of career, that could be your career, is a meditation teacher. For some of you, being a teacher in general becomes your career goal, because maybe this is something that you always wanted to do and you went a different direction and you decide, hey, I'm going to major in education after all, or I'm going to get a second degree or whatever. Actually, the 9th house, the opposite house, is college level learning. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of credentials and things like that. And it's interesting because I heard another astrologer talking about the 9th house, the opposite house, and was saying about credentials and training and things like that. And I said, I thought that was the 3rd house. But sometimes you do have overlap with different astrologers where they believe that one area is actually the expert in a particular subject matter or what have you. So I've gotten used to that over the years because I'm one of those people that really prefers that everything is very distinctly different and not that there's anything repetitive. But the third house is the mundane mind, so it can be anything that connects with the world and the knowledge that we need to navigate the world. So I would say especially like how to kinds of information. The third house is media, including social media. So that can be like a profession for some people. YouTube is one of those um, areas, but now TikTok has really taken over and other, for videos in particular. But of course, blogs still exist, and there are other mediums that a person can use, like podcasts. And the point is that it's about disseminating information. So Capricorn, I would say, is a sign of the mentor because of what I have read about the 10th house, that Capricorn rules, that it can be mentorship. So the person who is the expert. So if you have extensive knowledge in some area, Capricorn, you may be driven. I don't know if that's the appropriate way of putting it because usually I think of something like Mars where the person has a drive, but you just have this desire to, or ambition to, you know, put yourself out there like that and attain that kind of a goal. And so that can be something that you take very seriously because when Saturn is in a house, the person takes the affairs of that house seriously. And sometimes it's because you're eyeing it as a potential career move. The third house can be your siblings as well as aunts, uncles, cousins. So there might be some kind of responsibility that you have with one of these family members. Either you're taking care of them, maybe you're giving them money, like financially supporting them, or you are having some kind of difficulty with them. Maybe you're keeping your distance from them. And that's because of the restrictive influence of Saturn. And remember that Pluto is now going to be poised to go into your second house while you have Saturn going into your third house. So in Vedic astrology, Pluto, Saturn, Mars are all considered malefic planets, meaning that, well, I'm assuming that it means that they have a negative connotation or negative influence as transits in a person's chart. But I have often said on YouTube that even though I don't know much about Vedic astrology, if I'm correct that that is what it's all about, I feel that that is one-dimensional and rather simplistic because these transits can have a positive impact on your life, and they're they in a sense Pluto and Saturn have certain things in common, where they may overlap in terms of the influences. I think that Saturn can be transformational simply by forcing you to take that area seriously and really plan for success. Plan, meaning that you are organizing your life so that you have the best possible outcome in this area. If you're an aspiring writer, having Saturn in the third house can be a wonderful kind of like influence in your corner, because Saturn can give you that extra discipline, which to me, one of the hallmarks of consistency is, of discipline is consistency, meaning that the person just keeps showing up for themselves in order to accomplish their goal rather than doing things erratically. So this may be the time when you really buckle down and write that novel. And then when this transit is over with, who knows, maybe you've written a couple of novels. Okay, now let's look at Pluto. Pluto going into Aquarius means that it's going into your second house of earned income. I've already said that it is going back into Capricorn at some point in 2023, so it's not going to be in your second house all year long. And for many of you, it may not be going into that second house in 2023, because maybe you have, I don't know, like a 7-degree second house cusp with Aquarius. And so it might take a couple of years for Pluto to get into that area. But in any case, this can be a situation where you are entering a period where there's great transformation for you in terms of money. Now, you've had Pluto in the first house of the self, and it will be going back into that first house at some point in 2023. Pluto in the first house can be radically life-altering. You can feel like you want to become a totally different person. And this can be even physically, because the first house can be the body or the outer self. And you may just want to have a complete overhaul. Sometimes there might be lessons that have to be learned through that process. Somebody has a bunch of plastic surgery and they, it gets botched. I'm not saying that that happens all the time, but if something like that were to happen and it gets messed up, and then the person looks worse than they did before, and they spent all that money to look worse. And ultimately, it can be that they didn't realize that it's an inside job, that all of those feelings of self-acceptance aren't generated by looking a certain way on the outside, but by feeling a certain way on the inside. And maybe I would say that in those types of scenarios, Pluto in the first house is very purging. So the person can purge themselves of the false need for this. But there is going to be a lot of transformational angles during this transit, and one of them can certainly be on the physical level. In the second house, Pluto here can actually indicate attaining wealth. But the Capricorn person has to be super duper above board when it comes to affairs of the second house when Pluto is here, because you may be given an offer that you can't refuse. That you think, or I should say that you think you can't refuse because it's too good to be true. And the person who is willing to do what is right, you're going to sail through this. The Capricorn individual who is obsessed with getting rich, which, Pluto can indicate obsession. The person who wants more than anything to get rich may attract a scenario where somebody offers them some kind of sketched out deal and a sketched out product, and then it ends up being a scandal. And so you want to respect what Pluto represents when it's transiting that house, and keep in mind that that can render you with instant karma if you are not careful, if you are not paying attention to what you're doing and saying. Your very attitude about money can be transformed. See, I don't just say change, I say transformed, because there has to be this positive angle to it. If somebody is just changing their opinion on something, there's a frivolous element to it, because it may have nothing to do with deep convictions. It may be because they read some other article that made them think in a different way about it, and now they're shifting, but they're not necessarily anchoring. And so this can lend some gravitas to your area of finances, and really over the years reshape you and make you see where you have maybe given away your power. And for some people, this can be like a lack consciousness that translates into the way that you carry yourself, and you feel like you have to be very stingy with money, Capricorn. This is not going to be true across the board, suffice it to say, but there can be this tendency to really have restrictive attitudes towards money, and then they get blown to smithereens. And when this transit is over with, you may emerge with a completely different take on money and what you're capable of. So keep that in mind. This could be wealth and so on and so forth. Could be very good for you. So that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.